Ancient cultures lived by rhythms. The cycles of the sun and moon, the changing seasons, the rhythms of planting and harvest, these shaped their lives. Embedded within these rhythms were practices, often rooted in spiritual beliefs, that served to maintain balance. They understood intuitively what we often forget, that true prosperity comes not from relentless striving, but from respecting natural limits and prioritizing the well-being of the whole community. One such practice, found in the pages of Leviticus, offers a radical vision of rest, renewal, and social justice. The laws concerning the Sabbath year and the year of Jubilee, outlined in Leviticus 25, provide a fascinating glimpse into a society structured around principles of equity and sustainability. These ancient laws, often overlooked or misunderstood, hold surprising relevance for us today, challenging our modern notions of progress, ownership, and what it means to live in a just and compassionate society. The world of ancient Israel was vastly different from our own. Yet the human heart, with its capacity for greed, its longing for belonging, and its deep need for rest, remains unchanged. By delving into these ancient laws, we may rediscover timeless truths with the power to transform our lives and our world. Leviticus 25 stands out as a radical chapter in the Bible. It presents a vision of a society where land is not a commodity to be exploited, but a sacred gift, entrusted to humanity by God. It challenges us to rethink our relationship with the earth, with our possessions, and with one another. The chapter outlines two significant observances: the Sabbath year and the year of Jubilee. Every seventh year, the Israelites were commanded to observe a Sabbath year, a year of rest for the land. During this year, they were not to plant or harvest crops, but to allow the land to lie fallow. This practice served a practical purpose, allowing the soil to replenish itself. More importantly, it embodied a profound theological truth. The land ultimately belonged to God, and all living creatures deserved rest. Following 7 cycles of 7 years, the 50th year was designated as the Year of Jubilee. This year was a time of grand celebration and societal reset. Debts were forgiven, slaves were set free, and ancestral lands were returned to their original owners. The Jubilee was a powerful symbol of God's liberation and grace, a reminder that true freedom encompasses not just the individual, but the entire community. Imagine a year where the fields lay fallow, where the sound of the plough is replaced by the hum of bees and the air is filled with the scent of wildflowers. This was the reality of the Sabbath year. For the Israelites, this practice was more than just good agricultural sense. It was an act of obedience to God and a recognition of their dependence on the land. The Sabbath year served as a reminder that the earth is not ours to exploit, but a gift to be stewarded. It forced them to rely on God's provision and to trust that the land, given time to rest, would provide for their needs. This practice challenged their understanding of ownership, reminding them that they were merely tenants on God's land. The concept of a Sabbath year might seem impractical in our modern world, yet it speaks to the urgent need for sustainable practices that protect our environment and ensure the well-being of future generations. Perhaps it's time we rediscover the wisdom of resting the land, of consuming less, and of trusting in the rhythms of nature. The Year of Jubilee was a radical concept in the ancient world. It was a time when the societal order was temporarily suspended, and the gap between rich and poor was narrowed. Debts were cancelled, slaves were set free to return to their families, and land that had been sold out of necessity was returned to its original owners. This practice served as a powerful equalizer, preventing the concentration of wealth and land in the hands of a few. It ensured that everyone had a chance to start anew, to reclaim their dignity, and to participate fully in the life of the community. Jubilee was a testament to the belief that all people are created equal in the eyes of God and deserve to live with dignity and freedom. The Year of Jubilee was a time of great joy and celebration, a tangible expression of God's love for his people. It was a reminder that God hears the cries of the oppressed and is committed to their liberation. The concepts of Sabbath and Jubilee highlight the importance of rest, not just for the land but also for ourselves. In our fast-paced, achievement-oriented culture, rest is often seen as a luxury or even a sign of weakness. We push ourselves relentlessly, striving for more, achieving more, and accumulating more. Yet this relentless pursuit of more can leave us feeling empty, exhausted, and disconnected from ourselves, from others, and from God. The ancient Israelites understood that rest is not optional, it is essential for our physical, emotional, and spiritual well-being. The Sabbath, a day of rest observed every week, was a gift, a time to cease from work, to reflect, to connect with loved ones, and to delight in God's creation. The Sabbath year and the year of Jubilee took this concept further, reminding us that rest is not just about taking a break from work, but about creating space for renewal, for justice, and for the restoration of right relationships. Imagine a world without debt, where everyone has access to the resources they need to thrive. This was the radical vision of Jubilee. In the ancient world, debt was a major cause of poverty and social unrest. People were often forced to sell themselves or their children into slavery to pay off debts. The year of Jubilee offered a way out of this cycle of poverty and oppression. By cancelling debts and returning land to its original owners, Jubilee created a more equitable society where everyone had the opportunity to flourish. This practice challenged the prevailing economic systems of the time, which often favoured the wealthy and powerful. Jubilee was a powerful reminder that true prosperity is not measured by individual wealth, but by the well-being of the entire community. The laws of Leviticus 25 challenge our modern concepts of ownership, particularly when it comes to land. In our world, land is often seen as a commodity to be bought, sold, and exploited for profit. We talk about owning land as if it's something we can truly possess. The Israelites, however, understood that the land ultimately belonged to God. They were merely stewards, entrusted with caring for the land and using its resources wisely. The year of Jubilee reinforced this understanding by ensuring that land remained within families and could not be permanently sold. This concept of land as a sacred trust has profound implications for how we live in the world today. It calls us to question our unsustainable practices of consumption, to prioritize environmental stewardship, and to recognize the rights of indigenous communities to their ancestral lands. Echoes of Jubilee modern movements inspired by ancient laws. The principles of Sabbath and Jubilee continue to resonate with people around the world, inspiring movements for social and economic justice. The civil rights movement, the labor movement, and the fight for debt relief all echo the themes of liberation and equality found in Leviticus 25. These movements recognize that true freedom encompasses not just political rights, but also economic justice, access to education, and the opportunity to live with dignity. They challenge systems of oppression and call for a more equitable distribution of resources. The spirit of Jubilee is also alive in organizations working to combat human trafficking, to promote fair trade practices, and to address the global debt crisis. These efforts demonstrate the enduring power of these ancient laws to inspire hope and to mobilize people towards a more just and compassionate world. Sustainability and Sabbath lessons for a world in crisis. The concept of the Sabbath year, with its emphasis on rest and renewal, offers valuable lessons for a world facing environmental crisis. Our current economic model, based on endless growth and consumption, is unsustainable. We are depleting our natural resources at an alarming rate, and the consequences of climate change are becoming increasingly dire. The Sabbath year reminds us of the importance of living within our means, of respecting the limits of the natural world, and of allowing the earth to rest and regenerate. It challenges us to rethink our relationship with the environment, to consume less, and to prioritize sustainability in all aspects of our lives. Perhaps it's time to rediscover the wisdom of Sabbath, not just as a day of rest, but as a guiding principle for how we live in the world. By embracing practices that promote sustainability, we can help to ensure a healthier and more just future for all. Social justice and Jubilee, a call for equity and compassion. The year of Jubilee stands as a powerful reminder that true justice requires more than just upholding laws. It demands a commitment to equity and compassion. In a world where the gap between rich and poor continues to widen, where millions struggle to make ends meet, and where systems of oppression persist, the principles of Jubilee feel more relevant than ever. Jubilee calls us to examine the systems and structures that perpetuate inequality, and to work towards creating a more just society where everyone has the opportunity to thrive. It challenges us to confront our own biases, to stand in solidarity with the marginalized, and to use our voices and resources to advocate for change. The spirit of Jubilee invites us to imagine a world where everyone has access to healthcare, education, and economic opportunity. A world where debt does not cripple individuals and families, and where everyone has the chance to live a life of dignity and purpose. Conclusion: ancient wisdom for a modern world. The laws of Sabbath and Jubilee, found in the ancient text of Leviticus, may seem far removed from our modern world, yet they offer timeless wisdom that can guide us towards a more just, equitable, and sustainable future. They remind us that true prosperity comes not from relentless striving, but from respecting natural limits, caring for the earth, and prioritizing the well-being of all. These ancient laws challenge us to rethink our relationship with time, with our possessions, and with one another. They call us to embrace rest, to practice generosity, and to work toward the liberation of all people. In a world hungry for justice, peace, and healing, the principles of Sabbath and Jubilee offer a radical and hopeful vision for a better world.